The Final Fantasy set is super expensive, but that doesn't mean that playing Commander with it has to be. What I've got in this video are 3 different decks that are all $30 or less. You can go buy them at the link in the pinned comment or in the description. All of them are headed up by a Final Fantasy Commander, and all the decks are good. They're going to perform, ready to go right as you get them. We've got Kuja, Genome Sorcerer, at the head of a Rakdos spellcasting deck. We've got Hope Estheim at the head of a Mill life gain deck. And we've got Choco, Seeker of Paradise, as a Kindred Birds budget brew. Check the timeline down below for the exact deck that you're looking for, but do me a favor, if you like the deck or you think the video is just pretty sweet, hit that subscribe button and share it with a friend. Joel R. Magic is brought to you by Card Conduit, the best place to sell your cards quickly and easily on the internet. TCG Player, the best place to buy them and where you can pick up all 3 of these decks that I'm going to show you today. Dragon Shield, the best way to protect your cards, and Moxfield, the best place to put your deck lists on the internet, and where you can find these 3 deck lists down in the description and the pinned comment. Kuja, Genome Sorcerer is a red, a black, and 2 for a 3/4 human mutant wizard. Says at the beginning of your end step, create a tapped 0/1 black wizard creature token with, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this token deals 1 damage to each opponent. Then, if you control 4 or more wizards, which Kuja counts itself, transform Kuja into Trance Kuja. Fate Defied is an avatar wizard that's a 4/6, does not fly, strangely enough, looking at the art, but it says if a wizard you control would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals double that damage instead. So you've got this commander that makes these token wizards on one side that can ping each opponent. That each opponent phrase is very, very important here, and flips to make those wizard tokens deal double damage. That's what it's at its core. If you look at the creatures that we're running in the deck, we are running stuff like Coruscation Mage, a red and 1 for a 2/2 otter wizard. It's got Offspring of 2, so it scales up across the game. You can pay an extra 2 and make a 1/1 token copy of this if you have the mana. It says whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this creature deals 1 damage to each opponent. That is the ability that we are trying to stack as much as we possibly can. We're running stuff like Electrostatic Field. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, it deals a damage to each opponent. Erebor Flamesmith, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, it deals a damage to each opponent. Firebrand Archer, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this creature deals 1 damage to each opponent. There are 28 cards in this entire deck that say each opponent on them, and that is what we're trying to do. We are trying to stack as many of these types of effects on the battlefield as we can. Stuff like Gutter Snipe, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, it deals 2 damage to each opponent. And hopefully, over the course of the game, burn all of our opponents down. There are some cards from the Final Fantasy set that we can actually stack in here, like Black Waltz number 3. This is a black wizard, 4 mana for a 2/2 flying death-touching wizard. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, it deals 2 damage to each opponent. Mysidian Elder is a red and 2. It's a common from the set, a 1/3. Says whenever this creature enters, create a 0/1 black wizard creature token with whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this token deals a damage to each opponent. It's those black wizard token abilities that we love the most with this. Queen Braun does the same thing, bringing in a black wizard every time it attacks. Cornered by Black Mages makes an opponent sack a creature and creates 1. Circle of Power lets you draw 2 cards and creates 1. Transpose lets you filter a card, draw then discard it, and create a 0/1 black wizard token, and it rebounds. Doesn't create another token the next time, but lets you draw, discard, you lose a life, and that black wizard is going to trigger along with anything else you've got on the battlefield. We can approach this from the other direction too with some of our creature choices. Thermo Alchemist taps to deal a damage to each opponent, like Unruly Catapult, same thing. Tap it to deal a damage to each opponent, and whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, you get to untap it. So it's kind of doing the same thing, but it's a little bit of a different take on it. Past that, we want to be running instants and sorceries so that we can trigger all of these creatures and creature tokens that we're creating to burn our opponents down. Simple stuff like Vandal Blast, Faithless Looting, cards that are going to let us get to the correct cards. Cards like Disrupt Decorum. We don't really attack or block super well with this. We have a bunch of 0/1 tokens. We get our value from casting other spells. Disrupt Decorum says, okay, everybody fight. And hey, by the way, you can't fight me. Go in each other's direction and please leave me alone to just cast more spells like Siphon Mind. Everybody discard a card and I'll draw a card for each person that did. I get to refill my hand and continue playing the game while you have to get rid of your resources. We are running quite a few wizards in here and create quite a few wizards here, so we can get some kindred synergies with cards like Pact of the Serpent. Choose a creature type, target player draws X card, loses X life, where X is the number of creatures they control of the chosen type. And because we're making so many creature tokens, we can run things like Village Rites or Corrupted Conviction. Drawing cards, sacrificing creatures on the cast, that's something that we're going to be able to do. From there, you'll see a lot of removal in the sorceries and instants. Use that correctly. Wait until threats are coming your way. You are going to be sitting on quite a bit of removal, and so if you stay a little more reactive than proactive with it, as you cast things, people will attack into you, respond. I'm going to cast Go for the Throat, or I'm going to cast Infernal Grasp or Terminate. These are things that will keep opponents from attacking you further down the line. It's, well, they've got a full grip. Just don't come at me. I'm going to remove the thing that comes at me. Play politically with this, and you'll be able to survive the long game, just kind of dragging everybody's life total down while you keep threats away from you. In the artifacts, we've got Black Mage's Rod from the main set. That's another way to create a Black Mage, so to speak. Anything that you attach it to becomes a Black Mage, and so it becomes very valuable in this deck. I also really like the card Sorcerer's Wand in this deck. It's 1 mana equipment, says equipped creature has tap. This creature deals a damage to target player or planeswalker. If this creature is a wizard, it deals 2 damage to that player or planeswalker instead, and it equips for 3. If we're able to flip our commander, or just in the aggregate with everything else we've got pinging, having our wizards be able to tap and shock a player as well, pretty sweet. Then in our enchantments, we want to add to the damage we're doing, so let's have Gratuitous Violence. If a creature you control would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals double that damage to that permanent or player instead. Same thing with Dictate of the Twin Gods, except it's got the F word on it. If a source would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals double that damage to that permanent or player instead. I also really like Aether Revolt in this deck. I think people overlook this card because it has an energy symbol on it, but we don't really have to worry about that. It's an enchantment that says, Revolt, as long as a permanent you controlled left the battlefield this turn, if a source you control would deal non-combat damage to an opponent or a permanent an opponent controls, it deals that much damage plus 2 instead. All of our Black Mages are pinging for 3. They're all lightning bolts now, and all we have to do is cast one of our spells like Deadly Dispute or Village Rites, sacrifice one of our tokens, get all of those pings. We've triggered the ability now for Aether Revolt to be having our Black Mages all do 3 damage per ping. Absolutely ridiculous, and we don't need to read the rest of the text on the card. It's irrelevant. For each deck, I also want to highlight some more expensive cards that certainly push the deck out of budget, but will provide you some cards to sort of aim for in the future that are more powerful but more expensive as a result. Things like Harmonic Prodigy. If an ability of a shaman or another wizard you control triggers, that ability triggers an additional time. We're doubling all of our wizard token triggers. Things like Agate Instigator. It's a newer version of this effect on a creature from Bloomburrow. It's a red and 1 for a 1/3. It's got offspring of a red and 1, so for 4 you get 2 of these that both say whenever another creature you control enters, this creature deals 1 damage to each opponent. You've got a commander that's constantly spitting out tokens. You've got a bunch of cards that are constantly spitting out tokens. Stuff like Agate Instigator, stuff like Perforos, God of the Forge. There was a bonus sheet version of this in the set that might be grabbable within a good time frame here. That was Kefka Palazzo. Perfro says, as long as your devotion to red is less than 5, it's not a creature. Whenever another creature you control enters, it deals 2 damage to each opponent. Just another way to stack the damage in the additive and completely burn your opponents down. I also really like Giggling Skitter Spike in this deck. Whenever it attacks, blocks, or becomes the target of a spell, it deals damage equal to its power to each opponent. It's an indestructible creature, and for 5 mana, you put 5 counters on it, and it becomes a 6 power machine gun that every time it attacks, blocks, or becomes the target of a spell, it deals 6 damage to each opponent. Pretty nutty. And a newer card I want to highlight just because I've started to build it into a ton of red decks and I've really enjoyed it in my playtesting is Go-Go Mysterious Mime. It's a red and 3 for a 2/2. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you can have Go-Go become a copy of another target creature you control until end of turn, except its name is Go-Go Mysterious Mime. If you do, Go-Go and that creature each get +2/+0 and gain haste until end of turn and attack this turn if able. What I really want to do is copy Kuja, Genome, Sorcerer. We'll get the ability onto Go-Go, but we don't have to sacrifice either one of them because the name remains Go-Go. It's not copying the name, so the legend rule doesn't hit here. And at the beginning of our end step, we'll get 2 tapped 0/1 Black Wizard creature tokens with whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this token deals damage to each opponent. That's what we're trying to do. So any little tricks that we can use to make more of those, we're gonna do. The deck list for the $30 version of Black Mage Pings with Kuja, Genome, Sorcerer at the lead is down in the description. Let me know if you got any questions about this specific deck or any suggestions on cards you think might be strong in the deck and keep it under that $30 budget. Hope Estheim is a white and a blue for a 2/2 human wizard. It's got lifelink and says at the beginning of your end step, each opponent mills X cards, where X is the amount of life you gained this turn. That is a very strong ability. Now, mill is a pretty salty strategy, so you should probably make sure that your play group is going to be okay with it before we dive into this deck. This one really combines 2 pretty salty strategies: life gain, which really freaks people out, and mill, which freaks people out even more. What we're trying to do with this deck, though, first is gain life. Because our commander is cheap at only 2 mana, we're going to be able to resolve Hope and get Hope back out there. And especially since we're just wanting to gain life so that translates into milled cards, that's where we're going to focus. Cards like Hinterland Sanctifier, whenever another creature you control enters, you gain 1 life. Similar, Daxos, Blessed by the Sun. Whenever another creature you control enters the battlefield or dies, you gain a life. Life Creed Duo. Whenever another creature you control enters, you gain a life. This deck has 27 creatures in it, so you're going to be playing quite a few creatures for sure. We want everything that we're doing to be gaining us life, preferably, so that we can trigger Hope's ability as much as possible. I'm running Odric Lunarch Marshal in this deck. I think that it's strong enough just to give your entire team lifelink every single turn. It's only at the beginning of your end step that Hope's ability triggers, so you want to be aggressive with this deck for sure. But even on your turn, giving every single creature on your side lifelink, swinging out, gaining 10 life, everybody mills 10. We're getting there at that point, and it's not going to take that much more for us to just burn everybody's libraries completely down. We can double it up with stuff like Rock's Faithmender, a white and 3 for a 1/5 Rhino Monk with lifelink. Says if you would gain life, you gain twice that much life instead. Wall of Reverence, at the beginning of your end step, you may gain life equal to the power of target creature you control. Stack this correctly if you've got Hope on the battlefield so that we gain that life before the Hope ability fires off and we mill everybody based on how much life we've gained. I like Shadowkin in this deck a lot. A blue and 3 for a 2/2 says at the beginning of your upkeep, each player mills 3 cards. You may exile a creature card from among cards milled this way, and if you do, Shadowkin becomes a copy of that card, except it has this ability. Now we're starting to get into some of the mill pieces. I think that if you want to put actual mill pieces in a Hope deck, it's not that bad of an idea, but you want to focus on the ones that are each opponent. Stuff like Ruin Crab, whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent mills 3 cards. This can also take the form of letting your opponents draw more cards, get them further through their library of their own accord, and maybe buy yourself a little political goodwill. Cards like Quain, Itinerant Meddler, a white and a blue for a 1/3 Rabbit Wizard. You can tap it, have each player draw a card if they want, then each player who drew a card this way gains a life. So we draw a card, we gain a life. It's contributing toward our entire thing here. I really like Quain in this deck. Similarly, Stitcher Giraffe is 2 blue and 3 for a 3/4 human wizard. It's got a 3 mana activated ability to tap and have each player mill 3 cards, exile up to 2 creature cards put into graveyards this way, and then create an XX creature token where X is the total power of the cards exiled this way. There are ways that we can mill each opponent on top of the mill that we're already achieving with our life gain to hopefully finish the game out. Past that, with creatures, it's life gain payoffs. Stuff like Nykthos, Paragon, 2 white, 4 other for a 4/6 human soldier. Whenever you gain life, you may put that many +1 counters on each creature you control once per turn. Stuff like Angel of Vitality. If you would gain life, you gain that much life +1 instead, and it gets +2/+2 as long as you have 25 or more life. You know what you're going to have in Commander? Right when you sit down, 40 life. That's going to be fantastic. On our sorcery side, we've got cards like Fumigate, which is going to be our board wipe that's tied to life gain. You've got stuff like Sanctify, which is your artifact enchantment destruction tied to life gain. But we've also got stuff like Fractured Sanity. Each opponent mills 14 cards. Or Fascination, where we're definitely going to choose that second ability. Each player puts the top X cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard. Now, I said let's run the each opponent mill cards, but cut your losses. We can sacrifice a creature that's power 2 to copy this spell when we cast it. And I think hitting 2 opponents' libraries for half for 6 mana and a sacked creature that's 2 power or greater is super worth it. This is one of the few not each opponent mill cards that I recommend running in here. Our instant speed stuff is a little bit of targeted removal with Path to Exile, Swords to Plowshares, a card like Restoration Magic, which will help us save our commander's life on a budget, Dovin's Veto, and Absorb, also playing similar roles there. Watch out to save those for cards for spells that are being cast that's going to remove your commander. This is a fairly commander intensive commander deck, and so you're going to want to make sure that you're casting Hope strategically when you can get a lot of good payoffs and or have a way in your hand already to protect it. Cards like Drown in Dreams going to let us mill our opponent twice. We can choose both things if we have our commander on the battlefield. You've got more artifact and enchantment destruction tied to life gain with cards like Invoke the Divine. You've got a fog effect on Riot Control where it's tying life gain to a prevention of combat damage if they try and swing you down. You've got cards like Congregate that's just going to let you gain 2 life for each creature on the battlefield. You know how often across 4 players there are like 10 creatures on the battlefield? This lets you gain 20 life. You main phase this and then everybody's milling 20 cards. That's insane. One of the more expensive cards I included in the deck is an artifact, and that's the Water Crystal, but it's very worth it. 2 blue, 2 other for a legendary artifact. It makes your blue spells cast cost 1 less to cast, and if an opponent would mill 1 or more cards, they mill that many +4 instead. That's so many cards. On top of that, we have a repeated ability to be able to activate it for 6 mana and have each opponent mill cards equal to the number of cards in our hand. Repeated mill on an artifact that's going to add to the mill that we're already doing. This is a fantastic one and definitely worth the like $2 or $3 that it is right now to get this in the deck. In the enchantments, we've got some payoffs for life gain stuff with Griffin Airy at the beginning of end step. If you gained at least 3 life this turn, you create a 2/2 with flying's very strong. Also cards like Teferi's Tutelage, one of the only other cards in here that is targeted mill. Whenever you draw a card, target opponent mills 2 cards. This can just be a fantastic way to finish off one player. Other stuff like Griffin Airy with Angelic Accord at the beginning of each end step. If you gain 4 or more life, you put a 4/4 with flying onto the battlefield. And then you've got stuff like Rest in Peace. Also in the deck is stuff like Soul Guide Lantern. If we are filling up our opponent's graveyards, we don't want to make the Reanimator deck just have the game of their life. So if we're going to be milling cards, we want to pack a couple of pieces in there that let us exile all the stuff that we're milling into the graveyard so that we don't have to deal with it and actually be doing our opponents a favor. Down in the considering section of the deck list on Moxfield, on the more expensive side, I've got cards like Sarah Ascendant. It's $25, but look, this card is a 6/6 with lifelink for 1 on turn 1 in Commander. In a life gain deck, it's absolutely insane. You've got cards like Soul's Attendant and Soul Warden, referred to as Soul Sisters. These are cards that are only $3 to $5, but when you're looking at a $30 budget deck, that starts to push the budget really hard, really fast. So these will be ones on your pickup list that that you'll want to grab sooner rather than later and just continue to stack that life gain effect on top of each other. Cards like Bruvac, the Grandiloquent, I think that this one at $30 is too expensive to buy right now, but if an opponent would mill one or more cards, they mill twice that many cards instead, you can see why that could be very, very strong in this deck. So that may be a legend that you want to keep your eye out for to grab a copy and put into this deck. Beacon of Immortality is basically a win condition, 6 mana instant speed, double target player's life total. That counts as life gain. If we go from 30 to 60 on our turn, everybody's milling 30 cards. That's a lot. And then I want to recommend that you ponder your orb just a little bit and find you a copy of Mesmeric Orb in a deck like this. Whenever a permanent becomes untapped, that permanent's controller puts the top card of his or her library into his or her graveyard. That's everything. Everything coming untapped at the beginning of your turn, you count how many things you untapped, you mill that many cards. Repeated mill on an artifact like this for just 2 mana, it makes sense that this one's nearing like $20 right now, but I definitely think it belongs in the deck. And then a card like Boon Reflection, it's around $10 right now, but if you would gain life, you gain twice that much life instead. You want to stack that effect as much as you can find it and put it into this deck for sure. The deck list for this one is down in the description and in the pinned comment, and if you want to purchase this deck, it's available through a TCG affiliate link down there as well. Let me know what you think of my Hope Estheim budget build. Suggest any cards down there for people that might want to build this stuff that's worked really great for you. We'd love to talk to you about it in the comments. Choco, Seeker of Paradise is a blue, a white, a green, and 1 for a 3/5 bird. It says whenever one or more birds you control attack, look at that many cards from the top of your library. You may put one of them into your hand, then put any number of land cards from among them onto the battlefield tapped, and the rest into your graveyard. That triggers landfall, my dudes and my dudettes. All homies should know that is a landfall trigger mess right there. And it's cool because Choco, Seeker of Paradise says whenever a land you control enters, Choco gets +1/+0 until end of turn. You can see how with multiple landfall triggers triggering all at once, that this could get pretty brutal pretty fast. This deck has 27 birds in it. That's what I am talking about. We've got birds like Saz's Chocobo, an uncommon from the main set. Whenever a land you control enters, put a +1/+1 counter on this bird. All the way to cards like Wingmate Rock, 2 white, 3 other for a 3/4. When Wingmate Rock enters the battlefield, if you attacked with a creature this turn, create a 3/4 white bird creature token with flying, and whenever it attacks, you gain a life for each attacking creature. We've got cards like Kanji Sky Warden. Whenever it attacks attacking creatures with flying, get +2/+0 until end of turn. Whenever it blocking creatures with flying, get +0/+2 until end of turn. We've also got utility removal creatures like Aerial Extortionist. Whenever it enters the battlefield or deals combat damage to a player, exile up to 1 target non-land permanent. For as long as that card remains exiled, its controller may cast it. Ah, that sounds annoying. And whenever another player casts a spell from anywhere other than their hand, you get to draw a card. Hooray! What a bird. There's definitely some fantastic bird choices up and down the CMC. Stuff like Empyrean Eagle, just printed in Foundations. A blue, a white, and 1 for a 2/3. Other creatures you control with flying get +1/+1. That's what we're leaning into here. We're leaning into aggressive bird strategy. We want anthems on all of our stuff that is all flying. Let's talk about some of the few non-birds that we're actually running as creatures in this deck. Valley Quest Caller, whenever one or more other birds you control enter, scry 1, other birds you control get +1/+1. You've got stuff like a Maria Angel that creates a 1/1 bird every time you landfall. Every time you landfall. A bird commander that's made for landfalling. And Maria Angel's fantastic in here. You've got Saz Katzroy that was definitely made to operate alongside all the Chocobo homies. When Saz enters, you may search your library for a bird or basic land card. You're probably going to get a bird most of the time here. Put it into your hand and then shuffle, and whenever Saz attacks, you put a +1 counter on target creature, then double the number of +1 counters on that creature, i.e., that's a powerful bird right there. I also put Tawnos the Toy Maker in here. Not a bird. It's a human, but whenever you cast a beast or a bird creature spell, you may copy it, except the copy's an artifact in addition to its other types, and the copy becomes a token. Every time I cast a bird, I get a token copy of that bird if I got Tawnos on the battlefield. Yeah, we'll put that in the bird deck. In our sorceries, we're definitely running stuff like Chocobo Kick. It's flavorful. It lets us return a land we control to our hand as a kicker cost so that we can replay that land and get further landfall stuff. And it just says target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature an opponent controls. And if it was kicked, get it, Chocobo Kick, the creature you control deals twice that much damage instead. It's Chocobo flavor. We like a lot of ramp in here. We've got Farseek, Nature's Lore, Cultivate, ways to go and get land so that we can landfall further in addition to just fixing and ramping. We've got specific stuff that takes advantage of the fact that we're a Kindred deck with cards like Harsh Mercy. A white and 2, each player chooses a creature type, destroy all creatures that aren't of a type chosen this way. Everybody's going to get to keep a thing or two. We're going to keep everything. We're going to run cards like Airborne Aid. Draw a card for each bird in play. Okay, that sounds good to me. How about Winged Words? Costs 1 less if you control a creature with flying. Just draw 2 cards. Super simple, but super effective. You've got at instant speed, obviously Path to Exile, Swords to Plowshares. We're running targeted removal for sure. But you've got stuff like Dazzling Denial, counter target spell unless this controller pays 2. But if you control a bird, you got to counter it. They got to pay 4. You got stuff like Lofty Denial. It counters unless they pay 1. Or if you control a creature with flying, you counter unless they pay 4. I really love cards like Winged Portent. For 3 mana, you say draw a card for each creature with flying you control. You have the cleave cost of paying 6 to draw a card for each creature you control, but we're all flying creatures around here, baby. We're good with Winged Portent at 3 mana, instant speed, draw a card for each creature with flying we control. And then you've got cards like Rally of Wings. This is basically a win con in here. A white and 1 at instant speed, untap all creatures you control with flying, get +2/+2 until end of turn. 4 birds attacking, this adds 8 attacking power to the battlefield. We're flying, so we're probably avoiding most of the things anyway. In the artifacts, I really like Chocobo Racetrack. It's a landfall that's going to create Chocobos for us, which is pretty sweet. Side quest to raise a Chocobo in the enchantments is a definite. I also like stuff like Radiant Destiny. We choose a creature type. They all get +1/+1. And if we have the City's Blessing, they get Vigilance. Rally the Ranks, super simple. Choose birds. They get +1/+1. Favorable Winds. Creatures you control with flying get +1/+1. But listen to some of the cool things that we can do with a card like Retreat to Emeria or Felidar Retreat. Remember, when our Choco attacks, we're getting to landfall as much as we find when we dig down according to how many birds are attacking. Those lands go onto the battlefield, and Retreat to Emeria says whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, choose one, and we're going to choose creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. For every land that's landing on the field, heck yeah. Same thing with Felidar Retreat. Put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Those creatures gain vigilance until end of turn. It's just super effective across the board. And then I also really like Bower Passage. Creatures with flying can't block creatures you control. That sounds convenient for us. I do run 40 lands in this deck. It's a landfall deck. We want to be finding lands. Don't run fewer than 40. I know that's going to be your first inclination. I'm going to cut 2 and go down to 38. 38's fine. Yeah, it is. Just run 40 though. I'm telling you, you're going to have a better time. Let's look in the considering section. I've got some more expensive choices that you can keep your eye on for all of these decks. If you want to build this as the $30 version and you like it and you want to keep upgrading it, go check out cards like Birds of Paradise. It's just a fantastic bird. It's just typically between $5 and $10. But when you're doing a $30 budget build, that kind of card can really kill the budget just by itself. So that's a good one to keep your eye on. Also, Traveling Chocobo. Right now, this card from the main set's a mythic. It's like $30 at time of shooting this. So I would hold off on this one until that's down cheaper and you can grab it, because it obviously is fantastic in the deck. Stuff like Keeper of the Nine Gales. Tap it, tap 2 untapped birds you control, return target permanent to its owner's hand. It's fantastic, but it's super scarce. This is like a $10 bird. It just hasn't been reprinted a bunch. I also think cards like Safara Sky's Blade, it's only $3, but I would definitely be grabbing this. You can pay a white and tap 4 untapped creatures you control with flying rather than pay Safara's mana cost, and it gives other creatures you control with flying indestructible. It's just fantastic. Raise the Palisade is a fantastic Kindred card. Choose a creature type, return all creatures that aren't of the chosen type to their owner's hands. You can see why that would be good. Just kick all the non-birds off the battlefield. Heroic Intervention is a great card to upgrade into for creature-based decks. Survive board wipes way better with something like that. And then you've got cards like Patchwork Banner and Banner of Kinship. Patchwork Banner is a 3-mana mana rock that taps for any color. You choose a creature as it enters, and the creatures of the chosen type get +1/+1. You can see why that would be strong. And then Banner of Kinship is insane. As it enters, you choose a creature type bird. This artifact enters with a fellowship counter on it for each creature you control of the chosen type. It says creatures you control of the chosen type get +1/+1 for each fellowship counter on this artifact. That means if you cast and resolve Banner of Kinship while you've got 10 birds, let's say 5, while you've got 5 birds on the battlefield, that banner is going to get 5 counters on it. Somebody wipes your board and you replay 1/1/1 bird. That bird is still going to be getting that +5/+5 from that Banner of Kinship. That is how strong this card is. It's a must answer once it comes down in Kindred decks. And so this at around $5 right now is definitely worth a pickup if you're building birds or if you're building really any creature type based aggro attacking deck. Another scarce card is Soul Catcher's Airy, a white and 1 for an enchantment that says whenever a bird is put into your graveyard from play, put a feather counter on it, and all birds get +1/+1 for each feather counter on Soul Catcher's Airy. This could be really good, obviously, but it's over $10 just because of scarcity, and so I just don't think it's worth picking up right now. Past that, for lands, you're going to want to look at Cavern of Souls if you've got a lot of counter spells in your meta. Spar's Headquarters, just as fantastic fixing, and Three Tree City is always going to be a good ramp land in a Kindred deck. Check the description and the pinned comment for the deck list for Choco, Seeker of Paradise, and let me know if there's any cards you would include in here that would help keep us under that $30 budget, but maybe strengthen the deck even more. We'd love to talk to you about your Choco deck down in the comments. Those are the 3 decks. If you're still watching at this point, hey, what's up? How you doing? Good to see you here. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. You must have liked something about the video. Thanks for watching all 3 of them. Go check out the Patreon, see if you want to support me directly and get rewarded for doing so. Other than that, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.